Hello. I don't do this very often because I started this channel because I wanted to say great things about great literature. I wanted to ignore and to not be concerned with anything that was not great literature. But every once in a while, there is a book that I read which is masquerading as literature, and I discover that it is awful, garbage, trite, dreck. And I read one recently, The Idiot by Elif, Batuman. This is garbage, and it is 423 pages long. Those sticky notes are all of the examples of the garbage that I want to show to you. The book is pure garbage, and I could have a sticky note on every page giving an example of that, but these are the ones that I'm going to highlight for you. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the plot. I'm not going to read from the back of the book because they make it sound like it's some great romantic story, but I will read this little note. You know somebody was paid to write this. With superlative emotional sensitivity and mordant wit. Pause there. If you haven't heard the word mordant for a very long time, let me remind you of what the definition is. Mordant is an adjective, and what it means is something has the characteristics of being awfully boring, and only very stuffy, stuck-up intellectual types will ever find it slightly less boring than regular folk. And those people, when they find something amusing, they tend to do it in this way. And that's the pinnacle of emotions that they show. That's what mordant means. The Idiot, 2017, is the semi-autobiographical first novel by the Turkish-American writer Elif Batuman. It is a Bildungsroman and concerns a college freshman, Selin, attending Harvard University in the 1990s, 1995 specifically. This novel is very semi-autobiographical, based on the author's own experiences when she was attending Harvard. Let me read you the plot according to Wikipedia. Selin is a freshman studying linguistics at Harvard University. She meets an older Hungarian mathematics student, older by, I think, 3 years, Ivan, in a Russian language class, and the two begin corresponding over email and occasionally spend time together in person. While Selin and Ivan at times seem interested in each other romantically, neither knows how or when to express their feelings. The summer after her freshman year, Selin travels to Paris with her college friend Svetlana, and then to Hungary to teach English in a remote village, a job she accepts partly to be closer to Ivan. At the end of the summer, Selin returns to Harvard and Ivan goes to California to pursue graduate mathematics. There's nothing wrong with that per se, but in this novel, there is a intelligent but very emotionally immature young woman named Selin, and she meets this older Hungarian guy, Ivan. And even though he is said to be more mature and even has a girlfriend, the two of them behave like very immature teenagers who've never held hands with anyone before. Like, that is the painful awkwardness of their entire relationship. As it says in that brief write-up about the plot, quite a lot of their relationship is conducted by email. You might be sitting at home comfortably asking yourself, is it entertaining to read a 423-page novel about two emotionally immature people conducting a mildly flirtatious, do you wanna? I don't know, do you wanna? Well, maybe, I was just asking if you wanted to. Romance of that sort by email. That's the thing, by email. This is the one that pisses me off right away. Half of the book is these two children writing emails back and forth, and a lot of the book is her waiting to receive an email from him. I sent him an email last night at 2 a.m. and then I had to wait a week before I got a response from him. And when I got a response, this is what he wrote to me. And I said that I wasn't going to write to him at least for a week. And I didn't really understand what he was trying to tell me anyway in this email. And by the way, I'm a student at Harvard. That is 80% of the novel, and it is boring, dreadful, insipid, vapid. The reason this book is so bad is because it's so empty and superficial. It's very much like someone who has never had an adult romantic relationship trying to write a novel about having one. The characters don't, because like mentally they both seem like they're intellectual. They're Harvard students, even though they don't act like it. But like emotionally and like sexually, there's nothing. Sexually, there is zero. For someone who claims to know quite a lot about literature, I'll tell you, like Milan Kundera would be ashamed of this novel. And she mentions Kundera in the book too. Shame on you. I was really shocked to discover that she was born in 1977 because I would have sworn she's one of these new writers who were born in like 2001 who grew up on the internet because like her writing is so devoid of any emotional development in any single one of the characters. It's just a tedious read. Grant, why did you read it? I'll tell you at the end of the video, maybe, unless the video gets too long. All right, so let's get started. So page 16. I don't know the book is bad yet. So she's going to Harvard for studying linguistics. I thought she was a literature student, but she takes a bunch of classes that, like, none of them seem to make any sense in any way. It was hard to decide on a literature class. Everything the professor said seemed somehow besides the point. You wanted to know why Anna had to die, and instead they told you that the 19th century Russian landowners felt conflicted about whether they were really a part of Europe. The implication was that it was somehow naive to want to talk about anything interesting or to think that you would ever know anything important. I wasn't interested in society or ancient people's money troubles. I wanted to know what books really meant. That was how my mother and I always talked about literature. I need you to read this too, she would say to me, handing me a New Yorker story in which an unhappily married man had to go get a rabies shot, so you can tell me what it really means. She believed, and I did too, that every story had a central meaning. You could get that meaning or you could miss it completely. Okay, perhaps she's trying to demonstrate the immaturity of the character, like, what is literature all about? But it really rubbed me the wrong way. And also, like, the reference to Anna Karenina, frequently she drops in these little name dropping of authors and writers. You don't have to read a lot of books to be able to sound like you're very clever, like you've read a lot of books. And I wonder about these people. Like, I really wish that I could grill them. Did you really read Anna Karenina? That was how you felt, did you? You could read 5 of the big books and sound like you really know what you're talking about, faking it your entire life, just with a little bit of tidbits thrown in like that. Oh, why did Anna have to die? And people are like, oh, wow, she knows what she's talking about. Who's Anna? I know who Anna is, and you're not going to impress me with your very superficial name dropping here. She does it throughout the entire book. Raskolnikov, this one and that one, Unbearable Lightness of Being, which hurts me because that's a very sexual book, and this is like, it's like they haven't even gone through puberty yet. Oh, and here we're going to get another one. Page 52. In the end, I bought a shapeless, ankle-length black coat that could cover anything. It reminded me of Gogol's overcoat. Well, congratulations. You've read Gogol's most famous short story. Wonderful. You know, there's just those little things that everybody knows those things. Gogol's overcoat, Schrodinger's cat, Pavlov's dogs, Chekhov's gun. You know, it's a kind of literary snobbishness, but there's a way to do it where you don't come off like you think you're superior, like, or you think you're, you know, now you're talking to the well-read people when you write a line like that. You know, in Hemingway's first novel, The Sun Also Rises, they talk a lot about D.H. Lawrence and Lady Chatterley's lover, but it doesn't come off so heavy-handed. I bought an overcoat. Oh, just like Gogol's overcoat. Ha, 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 if you get me. If you've read it. I've read it, if you've read it. What do we got here? Page 96. Even though I had a deep conviction that I was good at writing, well, I could tell you, you were wrong then, and you're wrong today as well. And that in some way, I already was a writer. This conviction was completely independent of my having ever written anything, or being able to imagine ever writing anything that I thought anyone would like to read. Well, at least you're being perfectly honest with the reader about 100 pages in. The reason I'm making this video is because this was shortlisted for the Pulitzer Prize. The Pulitzer. This emptiness in 423 pages nearly won a Pulitzer. That's why I'm ranting so vociferously, because like not only are the writers full of shit, it's like the people who give them all these accolades. If you only read modern literature, yeah, you're going to think this is good because modern literature is just so superficial. It's not the good stuff. You have to go back, and on one hand, I kind of appreciate all of these literary references, except that, like, I don't think she's doing it in a natural way. I think she's putting it out there like, oh, I've read this. Have you read that? I've read this. Have you read that? Here we're going to get to something that I'm going to talk about a lot, is the abominable dialogue. The dialogue is so tedious to read because, look, there's naturalism and there's trying to write dialogue the way people really speak. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to include everything. Like when you have your characters wake up in the morning, you don't need to go in to their entire morning routine. You don't need to describe brushing the teeth, and you don't need to describe pouring the milk on the shreddies. You don't need to describe washing the dishes with the old yellow sponge. You can omit that. Not putting every goddamn little thing into the book because it slows it down and it's tedious. Listen, there's going to be so many of these examples. There was a poor married couple. Even though they were incredibly poor, they each had one prized possession. Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. They each had one what? A prized possession. Something that is really valuable to them. Oh, a prized possession. Go on. Do we need that? Maybe once. I'll give it to her that time on page 170. I'll say, all right, that one time, that little, it's going to happen again and again. This thing on page 227, I think it's just a mistake, but I might be wrong here, but I'd like to ask, whoever's watching this video, what do you think? So this is 1995, and she's in an airport in America, and she's flying to France. Walking through security was like dying. The way you had to say goodbye to everyone, the way you became just your name on a paper and gave up your money and your watch and your shoes. I don't think anybody took off their shoes going through security in 1995. I don't think that happened until 2009, 10, and we had to take off our shoes for a while, but I don't think in 1995 anybody was taking off their shoes in an American airport. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, because that one it seems like a very stupid mistake, but somebody had to have checked it. Here we go, dialogue. 237. So her and this boyfriend, maybe, Selin and Ivan, they have conversations like this throughout the book. What's Thailand like? I asked. I didn't hear you. Never mind, I said, because I didn't actually care what Thailand was like. No, tell me. Nothing. I asked what Thailand is like. Dumb question. No, it's not dumb. Let me think, he said. Thailand is really hot. They sell really good food on the street that you aren't supposed to eat. One day I ate a lot of it anyway. What happened? I got really sick. There was a pause. Did you say something? He asked. No. Oh, I thought you said something. It must have been a plane. It must have been a plane that made a sound and you thought it was me. That's a page of dialogue. Utter nonsense, that drivel. Really, Elif, when you're typing, is that like a kind of masturbation for you? Like, does it tickle your fingers to type? And that's why you include all of this grossly excessive dialogue that takes us nowhere, and it dries out everything. It dries out the characters, it dries out the book. Here's another example of dialogue. I think, even in China, they drink water, I said. I had been hoping this would sound funny, but it didn't. What? Said Ivan. Never mind, I said. No, tell me. Nothing. But what did you say? I think the Chinese restaurant will have water, I said. Uh-huh, Ivan said. We'll see. Like, does anyone else out there find that as annoying as I do? Like, am I nitpicking? In a very long book, you can have a couple of those worthless dialogue exchanges just to show how awkward the characters are. No, I don't think you can. And not to that degree, and not to that length, and not to that purposelessness. What did you say? Oh, nothing. No, come on, tell me. I made a comment about Gogol's overcoat. Oh, it just drives you to insanity to read a book like this. Now, here's something that is so grossly lazy, it just made me furious. I suppose now I should tell you that I think the secret to this book is that this book is basically a slightly enhanced version of her own diary. Like, I sincerely believe she opened up her diary and she said, okay, on May the 10th, I did this. On May the 11th, I did this. And she just used that as a structure for a book, which is why it's so boring, because people have boring lives. And that's why we read literature, because it is not like real life. Like, even a boring book like The Rainbow might be like real life, but it's written in a way that goes to the beauty and the despair and the emotional stress of the world that the characters live in. This book, like, there's no emotional depth. The laziness of this. The next Sunday, we were supposed to go to Mass at a famous cathedral. Okay, famous cathedral. Like, what does that mean? Is it big? Is it old? Does it have some frescoes? Is there some dusty stained glass? And then to the baths at a famous hotel where you didn't wear any clothes and someone scrubbed you with some wonderful something. Like, she couldn't even be bothered to go on the internet and find out what it was. She left that sentence in there. Scrubbed you with some wonderful something. A wonderful brick, a wonderful feather, a wonderful sponge from antiquity. It's the laziest thing. I know it's such a, the show don't tell, but famous cathedral to a famous baths, and then we were going to have a massage with no clothes on, and we were going to get rubbed with some object. Really painting a vivid picture. Thanks, Elif. Like, how fucking lazy is it? Like, you might as well just take it out if you're going to write something like that. And she could easily take it out, because the next sentence is, Dawn's clock radio went off at 7:30. So you could start the paragraph there and nothing would be lost. All right, another example of happy dialogue. I think I'll have to take a rain check, I told Peter in the lobby. A rain check? He looked amused. What is this rain check? Asked Andrea. A rain check means you promise to do something another time, said Peter. Let's say you have a ticket to an outdoor opera and it rains. They might give you a rain check, which would be a ticket good for another performance. So it's a metaphor. If you and I have arranged to go to a movie and I take a rain check, it means I can't make it today, but I promise to go another time. I see, said Andrea, sounding a little sad that they didn't get to go to the movie. This is on page 308. 308 pages of this nonsense. And we get Elif deciding that she's going to explain to her audience what a rain check is. Thanks! This really sums up the book, because the book is full of characters who don't do anything. There's the main character, Selin, and there's the secondary character, Ivan, who's very two-dimensional. She's also quite two-dimensional, except that there's 423 pages of her. Like, at one point in the book, I guess because she's got so much free time as a first-year Harvard student, she decides to start teaching classes on the side. It's really not explained why. She just decides that she's going to start teaching. And first she teaches this black inner city kid who needs help with her mathematics homework. She gives that up, and then she teaches this man trying to help him with his English, and then she teaches another older black woman who's trying to get her high school certificate. These three characters are introduced into the story very temporarily, but to no purpose. She meets the first girl 2 or 3 times. She meets the man twice, and then she meets the older woman. I think she meets her 3 times, and these people come into the story. They have no effect on the story. It's very unrealistic a first-year student would even do something like this. It adds nothing to any characterization whatsoever, and then it stops, and it has had no effect on the story. Like I said, I think that that was just her diary entry for that day. Today, I went to have an ESL class with this man. It didn't go very well because I'm not an ESL teacher and I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't even know why I would imagine that I could do something like that, but I did it anyway. It's just so perfectly impossible and boring and like a worthless use of paper to write that in the book. It's awfully unimportant to the main story. But then she writes this, and I feel like she's trying to be clever here, saying, here's why I've got so many characters in this book. It felt increasingly like reading War and Peace. New characters came up every 5 minutes with their unusual names and distinctive locutions, and you had to pay attention to them for a time, even though you might never see them again for the whole rest of the book. I would rather have talked to Ivan, the love interest, but somehow I didn't get to decide. At the same time, I also felt that these superabundant personages weren't irrelevant at all, but somehow the opposite. Oh, is she tying it together? And that, when Ivan had told me to make friends with the other kids, he had been telling me something important about the world, about how the fateful character in your life wasn't the one who buried you in a rock, but the one who led you out to more people. Maybe, or maybe he was just saying, yeah, you should really meet some other people because you're really so strange and hard to get along with all the time. Like the character is such a strange, hard to get along with person. Like you would never want to be friends with her. There's this stupidity on page 336, just a list of Hungarian names and their jobs because somehow she thinks it's relevant to this story. I hate it when writers do this. They just suddenly decide, yeah, I'll throw that in there too. That's a good use of a page. It's so worthless. Look at that, a page, wasted. Here's a wonderful example of dialogue, okay? Two figures were coming toward us through the darkness. Rennie and her boyfriend. Hello, Rennie, I said. Hello, said Rennie. Zoltan, this is Rennie. Rennie, this is Zoltan. Hello, said Rennie. Hello, said Zoltan. Lotzi, said the boyfriend. Zoltan, said Zoltan. We stood a moment in silence. Hello, Rennie said finally. Hello, said Zoltan. Hello, said Lotzi. Hello, said Rennie. Hello, I said. Rennie and her boyfriend continued on their way. You should say something, Zoltan told me after a minute. I think it's raining, I said. That's a little bit funny because Hungarians, when they say goodbye, they say hello. Commonly, it's a bit slang to when you see someone, again, typical to say see ya. See ya, Zoltan. And when you say goodbye, you say hello, Zoltan. So it's a little bit the opposite of what we do, and it's funny, and Hungarians like that because they love to be contrary. All right, we're on page 413. We're 10 pages away from the end of the book. 10 more pages and this fucking monstrosity's finished. And we get this paragraph. The rim of the bathtub and the top of the mirrored cabinet were crowded with products for dry or damaged hair. I saw a deep recovery healing shampoo for deep damage repair, a dry remedy moisturizing mask for damaged curly hair, a total repair conditioner for hair damaged and dried by styling products, an ultimate moisture conditioner for very stressed hair, and a bottle that just read emergency treatment hair damaged by dryness. I stood under the shower, luxuriating in the hot water, yet troubled by a mounting sense of unease about my relative's hair. 10 pages left, and we get that idiocy about hair products in the bathtub. At this point, I'm not even angry at her. It's the editors who permitted something like that to go in the book at this stage. She's having a shower. Oh, look at the... Okay, and the very next sentence on the next page, 414. Maybe she's feeling a bit conscientious about the hair products of the last chapter, and now she's going to say something, really deep and thought-provoking. Are you ready? The sofa bed was designed for someone different from me. Not just smaller, but also, it seemed to me, with a different personality. You can take that, stick it right up your ass. Bing! Put it up in there. You, that sentence, and the sofa bed. Whoop! There it goes. Here's the last paragraph of the book. 423. So nothing has come of the email relationship. Nothing has come of the times that they went swimming together in a lake and made no physical contact. Didn't even get to look at her tits. Show us your tits. So nothing has come of anything in the book. She went to Harvard for a year. She went to Hungary to teach English because that's where he's from and that's where he was going to spend the summer. And she thought maybe nothing happened. They both, she just couldn't break free of this, oh, I wonder if he likes me. That's the whole book right there. I wonder if he really likes me. He seems to like me, but then I just can't be sure that he likes me. Last paragraph. When I got back to school in the fall, I changed my major from linguistics and didn't take any more classes in the philosophy or psychology of language. They had let me down. I hadn't learned what I'd wanted to about how language worked. I hadn't learned anything at all. Well, you've never written a truer sentence than that. The whole book. Nobody learns anything from reading this book except that even Harvard students are just as boring as everyone else. Probably even more so. Honestly, people, if you're going to write a book about first-year college students, put a little sex in there, okay? If you don't get some sex in your book, especially one that's that long, like either you're wasting your life or you've never been to college, all right? Because it's 1995. People are fucking. Not her, not Ivan. Well, even Ivan. Ivan has a girlfriend on the side. Like that's, I wasn't going to mention that, but I might as well. So at the end of the book, they have a little excerpt from the next book, which is called Either Or, which is even a worse title than The Idiot. And Either Or, I just glanced at it, the first page, like, okay, what will the first page of her next novel be like? And I read this. I hadn't spoken to Ivan since July when we said goodbye in the parking lot on the Danube. We hadn't exchanged phone numbers since we were both going to be traveling. And anyway, we never had talked much on the phone. It's the same character hung up on the same guy. It's a sequel, and this is a pile of shit. You know, what really troubles me is The Idiot is obviously named after Dostoevsky's novel, The Idiot. You think there's going to be some depth and there's going to be some real churning of emotions and intellectual wonderment. But it's nothing. It's just some uncomfortable young person who's never had a boyfriend. She's never had sex. She's a virgin. You know, at one point early in the book, her and her friend Svetlana, like, oh, I would like to have sex at university. Yes, me too. I would also like to have sex at university. I think being at university in the first year, having sex is on the to-do list of things we ought to do in the first year is to have sex at Harvard. Like she's talking about going to pick up her student card and never does. Why does it piss me off so much? I know I have this arrogant attitude about being a gatekeeper for literature, but I do. I feel that there have to be people out there who say, no, this is not literature. This is just some of that romantic trash you see in Walmart. It's there one month and it's gone the next. You know, it may get some fancy little stickers on it saying shortlisted for the Pulitzer, but if you were to read it and you've got some literary background, you're going to recognize very easily and quickly that it's awful. It's worthless. It's, you know, the worst thing in the world today. It is a waste of your time to read this. So that's the final statement. Don't read this. No, unless you want to annoy yourself as much as I have. I don't enjoy too much making videos like these because I know that there are people out there who probably love this book and who are going to disagree with me most vehemently. That's fine. Come at me, bro. All right, that's all for me today. Thank you very much. My name is Grant. This is Grant Loves Books. I do not love this one by any means, but why did you read it? I had to read it for school, and let's just leave it there, and we won't get into it any further than that. All right, take care. I don't know, like maybe you were one of those teenagers who, you know, around 15 years old, you suddenly became rather, you felt you were a lot more clever than you actually were, and you would have these conversations with girls or boys or whatever, and you would say things like, you know, I would really like to talk to you about something quite important, but it's so hard for me because I'm standing here and I'm talking to you, but really I'm also outside of myself, watching myself as I'm talking to you, and I'm looking at my gestures and I'm examining the way that I'm speaking to you, and I can never really communicate with you because, you know, I'm always outside of myself, watching myself and being critical of myself. And the person you're talking to is like, man, you could fuck off. I'm gonna date a football player. Like, I don't want to go on a date with that person who is so up their own ass with, you know, and then I'm like, you know, really, give me someone who can kick a ball or throw a ball, has muscular legs. I don't want someone who thinks the way you do. Wow, where did that come from? All right.